Hello everyone and welcome to my Rejuvenating Studio, my Rejuvenating Stitches Studio. This is Quilt and Code. I am Allison and I am so glad you have joined me today for my continuing saga on the Stripology rulers. And I hope that you have a delightful cup of something in your hand. Mine today is an IHOP chocolate chip coffee, and I have a little bit of cream in there as well because I like it white. So boy is it's absolutely delicious. So let's get started. So in this series, we've been working with the Stripology rulers. I have been learning through many readings of the Mastering the Stripology Ruler book by the GE Designs that I am trying to figure out all these new rulers that I have. Okay, the only ruler that I've ever had is the huge, big daddy Stripology. And I'm realizing now, after working through my book, that I don't have the new XL ruler. I have the old one. And so I have had to make do with what I want to do today. And so I'm going to show you, if you also have the original big Stripology that you have only used for strips in the past, I'm going to show you how we can make some triangles with that today. So this is what I'm looking at making today. All right. So I had a delightful class yesterday with Vicki. We worked on the little JoJo. And so I'll just show you one of the things that we did. We are working on this little table runner pattern, but I think I am going to make this into a bag. And so I will keep you posted on how this turns out. And both of us showed up using the Shoreline Fabrics by Moda. And so we both have a whole bunch of little squares like this. And I am through with all my little squares. Now I just got to get them squared down nice and neat, just like this. And so before we even start, because I do think this is absolutely one of the best features of Stripology, I have to show you how to square again. While we were talking yesterday, Vicki managed to square like all the blocks that she had done because she had to leave early, and like boom, all done. It was fabulous. So I was like, yep, see, the squaring function is so nice. So I'm just gonna put you up here, and I'm gonna bring out my squared. This one is the Stripology Squared Mini. And so you can see here, I have black squares right here, and then I have white squares coming out from the center. So if I want to do a whole number, then I'm going to stick with the black squares. If I'm going to do a half number, like I want to square a block 2.5 inches squared, then I want to use my white. And so for these, I am squaring them all to be 4 inches. So I'll keep this right here so you all can see this nice and clear. And actually, I'm going to move my camera. Boom. There we go. That way it's a little easier for me to work with. Okay. So I have, this is nice that I'm using a nice white square for this because then you can see all these nice dark lines. Okay. So here's my dark lines right here. I want to make sure that I am putting, boom, the glare. We have a little bit of a new, that didn't help at all. We have a little bit of a new setup. Maybe if I move it over here.
I don't know which one it is. Maybe
it might be the other one. We have a bit of a new setup, and so we're constantly playing with lighting and all that other stuff. So, so right here, I like to make sure that I have a little bit of fabric outside of my box because that's what I'm trimming off, okay? The lovely thing about the Stripology is that I have all these little lines going through. So I have my diagonal white line here, and then I have a whole bunch of black lines going through here. And that's so nice to help me have reference to where I am picking up. The glare is just terrible. I have no idea where it's coming from. Right? I have no idea where it's coming from. And even if I move, let's see here. Nope, it's not that one. Sorry, guys. We'll fix this out. All right. So I am going to switch this actually because I think it's a little easier to see with the black lines. Okay. So, nope, not helping at all. I can line up these little lines right here, right on my seam. And so it's really easy to see on my white fabric. When it gets to the darker fabrics, it's a little easier to use my white lines. But on the darker fabric, it's really nice to see the darker lines. Okay, so now that I feel like I've got everything squared, ready to go, I am going to go ahead and trim off at 4. And I'm going to trim off at, I moved it a little bit, of course, because I'm on TV. There we go. And I'm going to trim it at 0, okay? And then I'm going to pull it off, and then see these 2 pieces come right away, just like that. And then I can line it up this way. And so first thing I look for is I look for my horizontal lines going here and here. And then I can square up at the 4 and then square up at the 0. And now I have a perfectly squared 4-inch block. And I just can't tell you and emphasize enough how important it is to square your blocks. In fact, I have a quilt that I made on my long arm right now. And there was one section that I got in a hurry and I didn't square my blocks properly. And that section ended up about a 1/2 inch bigger than what it needed to be. And so I have been scrambling and figuring out how to get that to work in my quilt now, because I didn't take that extra time to square off what I needed to. And it's very frustrating for me because now it's like, do I take the whole thing, do I take that part apart? It's going to be fine. Once it gets long armed, it's going to be fine, but still, it's just very frustrating for me. Okay. So here is the problem that I have run into with the fact that I have the simple Stripology ruler versus the XL. So the new one is the XL, and it has more lines on it. It has the ability to square better with your 10-inch squares and your other squares. It has a little bit more versatility than and that's just normal, right? I mean, I have had this ruler for I don't know how long. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that I have grown out of it, which is a good thing. So you have seen me do diamonds. Not a problem, right? Okay, well, on the XL ruler, you actually have a 60-degree line that goes that way. Okay, so once you cut your diamonds, let me grab a diamond here. Once you cut your diamonds, and if you haven't watched previous videos, I have previous videos on doing diamonds, but I'm going to do them in just a sec, so you can just hang on for just a sec. And so you have your 60-degree line right here, okay? On the XL ruler, you have a line that goes that way. So you can literally just sort of move it that way, and all of a sudden you can line up with a different 60-degree line, and then it's easy to cut using this ruler. Which makes me want to go out and buy a different ruler. But I am too cheap to do that, so I'm going to show you my little trick that I figured out how to use this ruler. Or, there's definitely different tricks. Okay, so one, I have all these diamonds, right? I could line all these guys up. I mean, this isn't a big deal. So I could line up all these guys and stick them, they're all perfect. Okay, they're all perfect. And then I could come over here and I could line up right here with I'm going to bring it over here so that you can see it. I can line up my 0 mark. Can you see? Kind of. The glare is in the way. So I can line up my 0 mark right there on my points. And when I cut this in half, look at that. I get perfect triangles. And so I could do it that way. That would be, but I wanted to figure out if I could. So I did. So let's show you how I did it. So I have a whole bunch of triangles now I've been playing. So I am am going to take my 2.5-inch strip. I obviously went crazy with this fabric when I was doing my binding. This is a binding scrap. I obviously went crazy and thought I needed 5 million strips and didn't. So I am playing with 2.5-inch strips simply because I have them in my scrap bin, and that's what I've, been playing with. So over here, I'm going to like make sure I have plenty of room on my cutting board because I have noticed I need that. All right. So I sort of place my piece right there on my cutting mat, and then I'm lining up that piece of fabric over here with my 60-degree line right there, okay? And first thing I want to do is I want to make my diamonds, okay? So I'm going to start here. And this is a 2.5-inch strip. If I'm making 60-degree triangles, then everything has to be the same. So I'm going to do 2.5-inch cuts. So I've got 2.5, I got 5, I got 7.5. I can simply on my Stripology ruler follow my squares. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for that. And I'm going to simply pull this out. And I'm going to pull this out right here. Okay. And then I need to have the opposite of that line in order to have my triangles. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it upside down. And I am going to line this back up just like this. But this time I am lining up my little corner right there with the 0 line, which is nice and white on my ruler underneath here. And I am lining up that line right there. And then I still can see my squares under here. The thing is it does slip a little bit more. So if I was going to do this a whole bunch, then I would probably put some anti-stick things on the other side. And then I can follow my squares again. And so if I were doing, layers of these, then this would make this easier. If I weren't doing layers, then I might just simply do the other way, where I line up and cut again. All right, so let's see if it worked. It did earlier. All right, here we go. So now I've got all my triangles. Okay, so as you know, I really like my minis. And so I took and put 2 1-inch strips together. And so now I have a 1.5-inch strip that is, yep, I'm measuring just to make sure, because I want to make sure I am doing the same amount as the width of my fabric. And so I wanted to see if I could do triangles using this little method that I was doing with 2 different fabrics or 3 different fabrics, or it doesn't matter so long as your width matches the amount you're cutting. So it worked. At least it did earlier. And so if I can't do it here, don't worry, I have like an example that did work. So I am going to start just like I did before. And let me see if I can move this over so that you can actually see it. Here we go. All right, perfect. Okay, so I am lining this up just like I did before. So I'm lining up there on the 60-degree line. And I have, got my 0 line right there. So I always start at my 0 line. And then this one is 1.5 inches. So I'm following my stars this time, okay? And so I'm going to start at my 0 line.
You had a comment from Martha saying she has the ruler but hasn't used it for triangles either.
Right? Okay, so I'm telling you, if you have to cut a gazillion triangles, this is the way to go. And I discovered something by doing this that I was like, oh, this is going to look so good in my notebook cover. Okay, so here we go. I've got 1.5. First, I'm cutting my diamonds. I got to cut my diamonds first. Then I got my 3. And I don't think I can, I can do 4.5. That's great. Okay, good. So I got 3 of them out of there. Now I am going to move this out of my way so I can flip this. So remember, I'm going to take that little guy out of the way, and I'm going to take this little guy out of the way, and then I'm going to flip her over. You wouldn't do this if you have the XL. If you have the XL, you don't need to flip. You already have it on the XL. This is simply because I have the older ruler. All right, I'm going to get it to where you can see it. I promise. Okay, so now I am lining up. I am lining up my tip with that 0 line. I am lining up the line right there. And luckily I can go through with my stars. Don't forget, you could also mark with a vis-a-vis marker, or you have these wonderful little stickers that Gundren has made for us that you could put on your, there you go, so that you could put them where you need to cut if you're doing a lot of these. Okay, so I'm going to go with my stars again. So there's a star, and there's a star, and there's a star. And that gets me, everybody. Okay, so here's what's really, really cool. So now, hopefully you have the XL ruler that you don't need to turn everything over and go finagled, but you know, now you know what to do if you do. So, all right, so here we go. I need a little ruler. There we go. Because you didn't quite go through all the way. This blade has cut a lot of squares in the past day or two. Okay, so now that I have all these guys cut, what I noticed that is going to look so cute. Okay, there's a million different things we could do with these. We could do something like this, where we put them into, or we could put all the same color in the center. Just like that. I'm like, okay, this is so cool. This is going on my notebook cover right here. Okay, so we can do that. Or, you know, you could just simply swap them and make straight lines again. And so there are so many different things that I now can see myself doing with my little things. And I would line these up. I would definitely line these up. Boom, just like that. So there are so many different things that you can do with the triangles, and I'm sure that you guys have more ideas. And then this is definitely going into the notebook cover. So all these little pieces, you know, I love my minis, are going to go right back into my box. So there you go. Okay, so we have triangles now out of your diamonds. Okay, and there are a ton of, even in this book, she gives you ideas of what you can do. She's got a nice little table runner here that you can do in this book. And then, you know, we're still using our diamonds, we're still using our triangles, all sorts of stuff. And so next week, we are going to look at flying geese. Just wait till you see how we can do flying geese. It's fantastic, and they're perfect every time. So that's what we will start on next week. If you haven't seen the videos beforehand, I've covered doing things like strips, making 9 patches, in fact, I can show you because they're so dang cute. It's so easy to make like mini stuff because, so there are I'll move that out of the way. There are my 9 patches. You know, I've got my triangles here. And so you'll see, I've also taught you how to do diamonds and then triangles. And so you're starting to see just how versatile this, oops, I'm not in the camera. Now, Lanny thought if you put up a camera over there for me to see, that he would not have to say to me, move into the camera. He was totally, yeah, he had way too ambitious desires there. So that's just so not going to happen. Anyway, so I am going to make a notebook cover out of this when we're finished. So next week we'll do some flying geese, and I'm going to make a mini because, you know, notebook cover. I love mini, but I'll do big ones too, I promise. And so if you haven't seen any of the other videos, go back and you can watch those. And we will see you next week. Oh, actually, next week we'll have to take off because we have camps for next week. So we don't have camps next week? Week after, I don't have camps next week. Yay! Okay, so I will see you guys next week and we will do flying geese. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, everyone.